Hello, my sisters, and welcome to my channel, which I have titled Sister Stories, Ageless Christian Inspiration, where we are transforming lives through faith, wisdom, and wellness, using storytelling as our medium, and the Holy Bible is our foundation. These videos are not designed to be academic or theology degree level resources. While I strive to honor the spirit of the original biblical texts, elements of my storytelling are interwoven with details from my own imagination. This creative approach is intended to make God's Word more relatable and easier to understand and apply to your everyday life. The settings may not reflect the historical context of the Bible, the clothing may not match the styles of that era, and the language and music reflect the influence of my own lifetime. I pray that you will enjoy. I pray they make a positive impact and perhaps even be transformative in some way. Thank you so much for visiting, and please continue to come. Peace and blessings, Cheryl. Enjoy. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you felt like the weight of the world was on your shoulders and no one, absolutely no one, could relieve the pressure but you? Your mother couldn't help you, your father didn't have a solution, and you just knew you couldn't go to your siblings or your friends, nor your church members. It was just you trusting that your God-given gifts and talents would have to come through for you. Well, that's exactly where I found myself about 3,000 years ago during a turbulent period in our history. Hi, my sisters. My name is Abigail, and I want to share my story with you. It's a story of how I faced a crisis that had the potential to put me in a precarious social position and threatened to destroy everything I held near and dear. So before I start, I need you to do two things. Lean in and listen up. Because, boy, do I have a word for you today. Let me begin by giving you a bit of background to my story. I was married to a man named Nabal, and I know you all have heard the saying that says opposites attract, right? Well, that could not be any more true than in my situation. This is a prime example of it. I was known and respected for my intelligence, wisdom, and beauty. Nabal, on the other hand, was known for his foolishness and harshness. Nabal's family history was distinguished. He was connected to Caleb, a respected and memorable man. You remember Caleb, who with Joshua wholeheartedly believed that despite the giants in the land, God would help them conquer it. And it was this unwavering faith that set Caleb apart from the other 10 spies that thought differently. Well, this was Nabal's family history, but he was nothing like Caleb. Nabal's name, when translated from Hebrew, meant fool or imbecile. Yep, that's right. And it foreshadowed his flawed nature and the tragic consequences that awaited him. But you know what? Let me not get ahead of myself here. My husband lacked no material thing. He was rich beyond measure, but his material prosperity and lineage stood in stark contrast to his personal character. Nabal was a surly man. He was mean, harsh, evil, even in his dealings, and completely self-absorbed. We often referred to him as son of Belial, which meant wicked or worthless fool, those men who disregarded God's law and guilty of egregious abuse. Imagine living with a man like this, one who cared more for his possessions than for people, a man who couldn't see the value of kindness or generosity. That was my Nabal. One day, a young warrior named David, who had already at a very young age been anointed by Samuel to be the next king after Saul, David came to our land. He and his men had protected our shepherds and flocks, and in those days it was customary to offer hospitality and provisions to those who had shown such kindness. But not my husband. David sent his men on his behalf to Nabal to ask for some food. At the time, David not only was in mourning over the death of his mentor Samuel, but he was also on the run from King Saul, who was trying to kill him. Nabal, in his arrogance and foolishness, refused David's request and insulted him deeply. My husband may as well have just laughed in their faces. Now, I knew David. He was a man of great courage and fierce loyalty, a man who wouldn't tolerate such disrespect. So when his men returned and told him the response they got, I knew David would be enraged. So of course, when I heard what Nabal had done, my heart sank, and I knew that our entire household would be in danger. Fear also gripped the hearts of our servants. They knew Nabal's actions had brought disaster upon all of us. But I couldn't stand by and watch as everything crumbled to bits and pieces all around me. I had to do something, and I had to do it quick, fast, and in a hurry. Without a word to my drunken husband, I gathered all kinds of provisions. I got the bread, the wine, the grain, raisins, figs, anything I could get my hands on quickly, and had it loaded onto the donkeys. With my maidservants by my side, I set off to intercept David and his men because I knew that my foolish husband had stirred up trouble and pissed David off, and he would be on his way to take revenge and teach my husband a lesson. As I rode toward where I knew David would be, my mind raced. How could I possibly appease this fierce warrior and prevent a bloodbath? I prayed for wisdom, for the right words to touch David's heart and turn away his anger. I needed divine intervention. I needed El Shaddai, my helper. When I finally saw David and his men approaching, their faces hardened with fury. I knew I had to act fast. I dismounted my donkey and humbled myself before David, bowing low to the ground. "My lord," I pleaded, "let the blame be on me alone. Please listen to your servant." I spoke to David with respect, acknowledging his position and the wrong that had been done to him. I appealed to his sense of justice and mercy, reminding him of his noble spirit and his destiny as king. I urged him to avoid bloodshed, to trust in God's timing and justice. And you know what? David actually listened to me. He saw in me a woman who valued peace and wisdom, a woman who was willing to take responsibility for her husband's foolishness. He accepted my offering and turned away from his vengeful path. I returned home relieved that I had averted a disaster. But ladies, my heart was heavy, for I knew Nabal's fate was sealed. By what I believe was a direct act of God, my husband died 10 days later. And when the news of his death got back to David, David took me as his wife. Now, sisters, I share this story with you because it holds valuable lessons for women of all ages, especially those of us in our golden season. We may face challenges and difficult situations, but we must never underestimate the power of our wisdom, our courage, and our faith. Like me, you may find yourself in circumstances where you feel overlooked or underestimated. But remember, you have a wealth of experience and insight that can be invaluable in navigating life's storms. So don't be afraid to take initiative to speak up with courage and grace, even when it means going against the grain or challenging expectations. Trust in God's plan and believe that He can use you to bring about peace and reconciliation, even in the most challenging situations. Never give in to fear or despair. Instead, use your wisdom, your God-given wisdom, your compassion, and your faith to make a difference in the lives of those around you. You have a vital role to play in your families and communities. Your voice matters, your actions matter, and your faith can move mountains. So, my sisters, let us be like Abigail, women of wisdom, women of courage, and unwavering faith. Let us use our gifts to bring about peace, to promote justice, and to leave a legacy of love and kindness for generations to come. I thank you so much for listening. I pray that you hold on to whatever golden nuggets you can. We're powerful. Remember, we don't walk alone.